Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where we look to empower and encourage real conversation amongst men everywhere by unpacking topics on self-help, philosophy, and business. Okay, we're recording.
We were always recording.
No, we were. Oh. Mate, I'm running the fucking recorder. Do you think I might understand if I press record?
Did you give your lady some of this?
She's gone. Oh. My lady.
Fucking hell. Moist.
Oh, Jesus. Conrad, welcome to the show.
That's that. Every time you play that, it suits him so well,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to the show, everyone. It's Matt J Hanham here.
What's up?
And welcome to the show, everybody. We're within we have a smaller group today, which is good, good, bad, ugly. Who knows? But we have a smaller group. So
I do miss Hato.
I do miss Hato.
And Dunk.
And Mike. So welcome to the show, Conrad.
Hey, buddy.
Hello.
J Moff.
He just farted rainbows.
and Justin.
What's up?
Noise.
Noise.
And as I said, yes.
Welcome back, JK.
Yeah, if you aren't aware of who I am, maybe you are or you're not now.
Can we do your sound?
Yeah, I need a sound. What would be good if
Maddie's got a new toy.
we'll cut all these sounds out of the show and then it'll just be like, what are those idiots talking about? So, welcome to the show, fellas. It's a Friday afternoon. And
I know, cool.
It's cool. It's nice, right? Good vibe. Nostalgic. We don't fully do these on Fridays, in case you wondered why. we put them out on Fridays, but we don't record them on Fridays, and sometimes we do a couple in a session.
I don't know what relevance that has to this topic, but anyway.
Well, the relevance to the topic is I'm not sure I know the topic.
Oh, God.
So this is called word vomit, and I prefer it to this about you.
That's good awareness you have there, Matt.
So the topic for the day is TV dads. And really what we're talking about here is basically the portrayal of dads in media is kind of rarely positive. Often they're portrayed as lazy, stupid, selfish, and primarily sort of antagonists. We're thinking of people like Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin from The Family Guy. That wasn't a sound effect. That was Justin. Al Bundy from Married with Children, for those in Conrad's era. Daddy Pig.
I don't know who this Daddy Pig dude is.
It's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon. Peppa Pig is a cartoon.
I get Peppa Pig. I didn't know they had a Daddy Pig.
Well, that's the dad
Okay.
in Peppa Pig. I mean, it's fairly obvious. Phil Dunphy.
I know Phil.
You know Phil? Yeah. Modern Family. Ray Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond, and Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, which I haven't seen much of.
You know, they're all idiots.
They're all idiots. But that's pretty common, right, in these kind of sitcoms. There's the idiot dad.
Do these guys have... Oh, I probably shouldn't say it. I won't.
No, say it.
No, because I know what happened to my mate Scotty coming on his show.
Oh, mate, you're not that serious. Who's going to cut your legs off?
I might lose my job.
But,
That's right. I'll hire myself. No, they might have female directors.
They might. And?
Well, what I'm saying is that would a man do that to a man?
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't have female directors?
They don't.
The
Not that I know
Simpsons
of.
is not. The Family Guy's not.
Well, okay. I don't know who the directors are. I'm just asking.
You did go on that limb.
These are all like, they're comedies though. Like they're comedies, they're supposed to be fun, so they play on this like stereotype.
Yeah, but why is the stereotype the dickhead dad? Like,
Yeah, exactly
Like
right.
It's
is
always
a
the
serious
dickhead
dad
dad.
who's really like
but are you serious
into their
dad?
children? No.
Yeah, and do you
You see my story yesterday? I went
stereotypically
down,
spend
like,
all
an
your time at the
outrageous
pub on the weekend and like always fail your children and do a lot of these? I mean, they don't all do that, but they're largely dickhead dads, right?
Yeah, the stereo. I mean, what we've been programmed here is not really kosher, right? You don't do it. I don't. Well, you're not a dad, so I wouldn't assume you'd do it even without being a dad. I don't believe you do half the things some of these clowns do.
So according to a study, right, 42% of people agree that the media portrays dads as stupid or clueless, and 56% say marketers and programmers need to evolve in order to accurately reflect men's involvement in household and parenting roles that is more consistent with modern life?
I reckon this is pretty consistent with we run, at my kind of work, we run a kids program, and we often deal with a lot of parents. Most of the time, it's the mums that are the ones that are organised and responsible and book in their kids and bring them to the programs. Every now and then, the dads drop them off, and generally it's, hey, what time does this finish? The missus has just sent me with little Jimmy, and I have no idea what's going on. He's just been given a basic set of instructions. That's all he's been trusted with.
But that doesn't make him stupid.
No, not at all. It's just, whilst we're in 2019, there are still stereotypical male and female roles within a family unit. And whilst there's plenty of counter examples to that, TV generally just plays to the stereotype because that is still the majority.
What are we drinking, by the way?
I was going to say, actually, can I roll back that failed opening scene? I actually poured the guys the drink before we started.
Nice.
But similar to a recent episode, we're drinking a bottle of Henri Abelais, I believe. It's the Brut, which is beautiful.
It's made 3 appearances on this show since our start.
It has, mate. And the reason for this bottle is I bought it knowing that it's a Conrad favourite.
Oh, it is my favourite champagne.
As Conrad was celebrating a bit of a win in his business world today with an acquisition of another business or business unit, so to speak, and so that's a bit of a celebration.
Factual information. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. 4th oldest house of champagne, and the brand of champagne that was on the Titanic when it sank. Oh. Thank God we're not on a boat today.
Hopefully it's not a metaphor for this.
No, I still drink lots of it. Don't worry about that.
So anyway, that's what we're drinking. But back to TV dads, and Justin, I think you're about to say something.
Was I?
You are now.
Oh, look, I think it's actually interesting. I mean, we talk about masculinity, we've attempted multiple times, and it really does.
Attempted.
When you say you've attempted masculinity, what does that mean?
As a collective, yeah. So you're in that basket too. It's interesting. When I was given this brief, it never really occurred to me that it is such a stereotype, and when you do look at all of these characters, how much it does downplay men and kind of portrays them as being, I guess, weak, stupid, lack of responsibility, just going out on the piss, getting drunk, and I think it does have an influence and has had an influence regardless on today's generation, like particularly people who, they seem to knock off work, go have a beer, or go have a drink, and then kind of come home. And I think there's a lot of influence there, and you're kind of the uncool dude or I think I've copped a lot of slack, particularly from my brothers over the years as being the more serious one. And I think these type of stereotypes do put people who are a little bit more maybe ambitious or driven into kind of a little bit of isolation, because then you become part of the norm. So I can kind of relate that I do think there has been some influence with these things. And the more popular people at school, when I reflect on it, were the ones who were the kind of stupid and cause a ruckus and the goofy ones. And probably the ones who weren't performing that well were generally... had more friends and all this other things and whatnot. So it's interesting. I don't know where or why.
I know why. Basically, we just need to get controlled by media.
But
why the men have been portrayed this way in these shows. I mean, it is comedic. But
stereotyping is what we're talking about, right? I mean, it's actually quite interesting because earlier this year, I think maybe a month or two ago, the British Advertising Agency has started to ban gender stereotyping, and that's in their advertising. So why is it good enough for advertising to ban gender stereotyping and not good enough for TV shows? Or why is it tolerable in comedy? Is it just because we have to accept that?
There's a quote here that I've got. Basically, this topic came from Josh, who helps us produce this show.
He would be our producer.
He would.
I just said that.
In 3 words or less.
I said it in 5. You said it in 4.
Sorry.
Josh is producer.
The quote goes on to say, the worldview of our society has become increasingly both gynocentric, or focused on the needs and problems of women, and misandric, I think it's pronounced, focused on the evils and inadequacies of men. There was a quote by, in Spreading Misandry, the teaching of contempt for men in popular culture, which I thought was an interesting point. This is what was collected in the, I guess, the notes for us to have this conversation today. And it's like, but you can see that, right? And that's what that is in a sense. Like, it's sort of contempt for them, despite largely, I think those men are still doing what they're what is primarily expected of them in terms of the being the provider in the sort of old way. But then they're also they
how
play
are you
up
in your household? How are you positioned in your household?
not like that at all.
No, I was.
Well, in which way? Like the dickhead dad?
I was portrayed as the dad that would be the one that administers the issues, like the discipline and all that type of stuff.
Oh no, that I do. Oh well,
Is that not stereotyping?
that is, but I'm not portrayed in the way that like Homer Simpson or mainly because I don't do that. Like I don't spend my time at the pub. I don't do things in that manner, but I still do.
You don't come home with radiation tubes and stuck to your back.
Radiation tubes.
Whatever that green thing is that is on Homer's back.
Oh yeah.
But there
Exactly.
there is an element to truth. Like if you look at like Ray Barone or a few others, and you look at what you were just alluding to, Jacob. Like there is an element of truth in it as well.
I've got some dad jokes.
Yeah,
I mean, I've straddled a couple of
like the lack of
generations,
organisation,
right?
and kind of like the I don't know what's going on. I'm just here, and kind of this like blasé attitude.
Stereotypes come from truth. The reason there's a stereotype is that there was
So have the British got it wrong?
A majority.
So have the British got it wrong?
No, the truth is, and this is why it pisses us off.
I'm happy if the British got it wrong.
Is
We can
we're a
take the British.
slice.
We've had enough of cracks at the Americans.
Fuck off. I'm British in my heritage. And no, but we're a slice. We're a cross section. And look, because we're a cross section, we're only ever going to fit into a piece. And are we the 80-20 of what we're talking about here? Well, we're obviously in the 20, because I think in a lot of ways there's a lot of dads that are probably more like this. And I'm not saying they're not good dads, but they've got their job. What they do after hours.
I don't know anyone that's like this.
Yeah, but who
Like
do you
Homer
choose
Simpson?
to hang out with?
I don't know anyone like Homer Simpson.
I like to be like
Oh, I do.
I do.
Do you?
With no disrespect to my father, but he's had elements.
Calls out his dad.
We're being true. We got to talk for us, right?
I grew up with Mike Brady, from the Brady Bunch, and he was a pretty cool dad.
He was your dad.
No, Mike Brady went to work, provided for his family. My dad did that. My dad didn't go to pubs or anything. My dad wasn't. I don't know who.
Well, my dad didn't
Daddy
go to
Pig
pubs,
is,
but he would straight after work. He'd go to his mate's place and and drink. So, it's kind of a little bit Homer Simpson like
Yeah.
in some respects.
But there's different slithers. There's different sections of them. Like
I'm not sure
Daddy
you-
Pig's like the one that
So do you
basically
guys
can't
actually
put a
know
nail
people
on
like
the wall.
this? Apart from your dad, do you know people like this?
Actually, my dad now
I know
looks.
his dad.
My dad shaved his head and he grows the.
I'm not gonna be able to
he's
look at
got
photos
the
of
mow
his
as
dad
well. So he's actually.
I am not going to be able to look at your dad again.
Oh, that's hilarious. Didn't click.
Mr. B, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. B.
It's all right.
Well, men have gone through a process, but I don't think men have come as far as women have in
We haven't evolved.
in their portrayal. Like if you look back at something like, say, that 70s show, the dad is that like all-American,
Yeah, but he's not on this-
hard-ass
he's not
kind
on
of
here.
character.
But do you think that's why in the TV shows they are the way that they are because of through war and through everything else that men were portrayed as
They're like
strong?
hard
They
and
needed
tough
the
and-
the yin and the yang to counterbalance in some respects.
They were the tough disciplinarians, but then they were like that. They just sit back and drink their beer and kind of don't really care about things. And there's a few on here, like Phil Dunphy is probably a better example of like more of a modern dad who has a laugh and loves his magic and hangs out with the kids and kind of.
Would
has
he
a
be
playful-
more of the normal?
I would be proud to be like Phil Dunphy in terms of on that list. He's the one I'd probably identify most with because he's young at heart.
Do we know any daddy pigs?
Daddy Pig he's just a bit hopeless.
They all kind of are.
Sorry, Jacob. I mean,
No, but like
I guess
Daddy-
if we're just trying to filter that, I don't know who Daddy Pig is. So I
No,
don't,
but like Daddy Pig's, he can't do any handiwork if he needs to around the house. He sort of, it's like he's a bit lazy. He's overweight. He's a pig.
I don't know any Daddy Pigs.
You don't know Daddy.
I have
watch the
aspects
show.
of Daddy
No, but
Pig.
hey?
I have aspects of Daddy Pig, like the come home from work, sit on the couch, kind of eat your dinner and leave a few dishes
And
on
watch,
the bench kind of thing.
on the stuff on the internet.
Like Ainsley mentions it all the time, the fact like you don't clean up after yourself, you just come home and sit down like this.
Like a pig.
short of being overweight, I tick a few of the boxes.
So you're Daddy Lean Pig.
Yeah,
No crackle on this fella.
the bacon, not the pork belly, yeah.
He's a loin.
But like women have gone through a process of being that stereotypical kind of housewife that has everything kind of the household sorted, dinner ready, kids in bed, etc. To now, like if you look at Claire Dunphy, the wife of Phil, who is
She's working, yeah.
a CEO of a major business. She's taken that on from her father. She's also a parent. She also takes the kids to school, and she kind of exercises and she kind of ticks all the boxes.
So to me, that's what I would expect to be normal in society. Well, I'm not saying CEOs for everybody, right? But
Yeah.
but a woman, a working mother that balances that. That to me is normal. I don't believe that these fathers are normal.
They're not really normal. I mean, we just
There's
find
less
it funny, right?
expectation
I
on
mean,
men.
truly, we just find it funny.
I'm not happy with it.
There's an expectation for women to raise the children and kind of maintain the household and to provide. And nowadays, the expectation is still just for men to provide and to a degree, just not be shit with the kids.
But these men, whilst they might be providing, aren't providing in significant roles. You just said it right. Claire Dunphy's dad he had his own business,
Yeah.
but then the father, he's a real estate agent from memory. Is that right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
You know, so they've already downplayed that role, and she's moved into the alpha.
Yeah.
It's true. She has, in a way, moved into the alpha.
Most of the women here are in the alpha.
Would you say Marge Simpson's alpha?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, in comparison to
Think,
Homer,
like, who
definitely.
holds
In the
the power?
household.
Who
In the
holds the
household.
power in the
Yeah.
household? Yeah.
And then I can't remember Ray Barone. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, his wife's a ball breaker.
Yeah, so
She was whipped
she's
AF,
the
yeah.
alpha. And then
I'm gonna get shut down for saying shit.
Peter Griffin's wife is as well. And they make her
Lois.
out to be Lois.
Al Bundy, you know about Al Bundy.
I have no idea who Al Bundy is.
Yeah,
No, no.
his wife is that other princess lady. I mean, she wasn't alpha at all, but she was even ditzier than. You know, that really.
And how's
crucifying
life from
yourself.
Malcolm in the Middle? She's scary.
Yeah. All of the women, all of the wives to these men control that household and essentially hold the power.
But that's
Not Bundy's
isn't-
wife.
isn't-
that's
Actually,
isn't that
yeah.
stereotypically
She's
correct?
an idiot.
Yeah.
Isn't that stereotypically correct anyway?
Yeah. It's
There's
Largely.
nothing.
Not
I will
personally
not
been my
dispute that women in my life, my mother, managed to hold the house down. You know, but my mum did that. And is she a ball breaker? Yeah, I reckon she could be. I reckon she probably was to a certain level.
What are you talking about there?
Well, no, I'm just saying my mum was probably the alpha dog.
Yeah. Probably. Makes sense.
That's why she still survives.
That was an awkward
The
silence.
black widow spider eats its males after mating.
It's true.
My dad's not around anymore.
Wow.
conspiracy.
If you're listening, Mum, then he didn't mean it. He'll see you on Wednesday. Tomorrow morning.
Fucking breakfast with the boy.
But do we think this portrayal is harmful?
Well, if the British Advertising Agency has said that men unable to change diapers, women cleaning while men kick up their feet on the couch, women having trouble with parking, scenes like this, which play on gender stereotypes, are now banned, clearly it is harmful.
So what ads are they going to produce?
Yes. Most ads are
Screwed.
based on, yeah.
But as you said, stereotyping is unavoidable.
And it comes from but stereotypes don't just come out of nowhere. They come out of the fact that typically these things.
We've had these conversations, right, about categorization.
Well, can I tell you?
And we always seek to group ourselves and that's
I had a massive problem today because knowing we're going to talk about this topic, I've been doing some marketing or preparing for some marketing in the office. Did you just angle yourself to expel air?
I did not.
Anyway,
We are being videoed.
yeah. So there was a video of him expelling air. Anyway,
I thought I might. Actually, I thought I may burp. If you would like to, know that. So I moved away from the
expelling
microphone.
air.
No, I thought I may, and I did not.
So I'm preparing for a marketing campaign, and I used freelancer.com, throw us some bucks, to outsource some of the graphic work, which is, I love doing that from time to time. And then they said, well, it'll be faster and cheaper if you gave us the imagery. So I said, okay, no problems, I'll source the imagery. And so I was sourcing the imagery to certain life events. And what played on my mind is, why are men and women always still portrayed as couples as opposed to the same-sex gender stuff we've got going on? Am I wrong if I don't make provision for same-sex coupling in my marketing?
You're not wrong to do it, but like marketing is a numbers game, and roughly, as far as I'm aware, there's approximately 10% or less same-sex couples, and therefore, if you're putting out marketing to the general public or a cold audience, for example, there's putting something that's going to heavily resonate with 10%, but potentially alienate or not resonate with 90%. Just makes no sense.
Interesting, but when I search for couples photos, I'm only getting, unless I put it same-sex couple. If I put couples, I'm getting husband and wife.
I don't think that's Google having an agenda or the fact that it's just purely based on the numbers. There's just not enough of that to break through yet to be considered a norm. Like if you Google photos of couples,
Mate,
you'd expect...
where are you looking for photos?
No,
Jesus.
all I'm saying
you
is that...
You need to reach out for a little bit of help.
All I am saying is that I actually considered the gender stereotyping when I was doing this, which is, not purposefully, but, it's something that, knowing what happened in the UK and then knowing the topic we're talking about today, it's planted a seed in my mind is, okay, well, fine, am I broad enough or am I playing to the...
Well, I'll give you another example on that. So we obviously do social media marketing as one of the things we do, and we've got some government clients, and I won't say which one. And recently,
Australian government.
Well, no, but I won't say which agency that it was for, but we've recently had to stop using emojis of males and or females, and be very careful about that. They've taken another level of not wanting to make any statement that might suggest the sex or type of or situation that person is in. And so it's a very interesting debate at the moment, and then some people are taking a very conservative line, others taking a different one.
So do you think there's an agenda? I mean, because clearly, like I've grown up been on this planet a bit longer than you guys, right? So I can see where TV was and where advertising was. I grew up with an ad campaign called Norm, Life Be In It, and Norm was the typical Australian man with a beer gut, tank top, stubbies, and didn't exercise, put his feet up, did all that stuff. I grew up with that going on. It's quite funny. If you Google it, it's quite a funny ad campaign. So that was norm to me. And then when I look at TV back in those days, I'm brought back to the Brady Bunch and Mike Brady as a stereotypical man, went to work.
An architect, wasn't he?
He was an architect, went to work, had a study, came back and did the work at home, worked late, had 6 children, a wife and a housekeeper, Alice. Living next door to Alice.
You had a bit of a thing for Alice, didn't you?
Everyone had a thing for Alice. She could cook really well, but the issue, like, so to me, when I look at that, then I grew up watching.
Just floated off
the Sullivans, who you talk about had in the name, eludes me, but they had a war basis, and
Mike?
so men. Was it Mike from the Sullivans? No, I don't think so. No, they had a war basis, and again, there was a lot of men or males away for periods of time at war. So again, hardworking males, as it would be portrayed, and this was the stuff I grew up with. I didn't grow up with a lot of this stuff, so
I didn't either.
Hey,
I didn't either. Like my dad, as far as this, like the beer drinker, my dad bought a 6-pack of beer once a month, and that's all he could choose to afford. and B, tolerate, he worked. He worked hard. He worked on weekends. He didn't spend time at the pub. He was very, very different to this portrayal.
I've watched The Simpsons, right? I have watched Simpsons. I grew up watching The Simpsons, right? And here's a little known fact of The Simpsons that Bart Simpson in the episodes lead up gets to write on the whiteboard because he's being naughty. Every episode has a different phrase that he's writing on the blackboard.
Stop it.
I know, it's crazy. You should read it sometimes.
We know that.
Oh, you know that?
Anyone who's watched The Simpsons knows that. Not a fun fact.
Shit, I thought I was going to mic drop that one. That was my bomb on here. But other than The Simpsons and Homer's a douche, right? To now look at all of these names written down in modern TV, I'm actually embarrassed and appalled that's how fathers are being portrayed, and really upset.
Upset?
Yeah, because I don't assimilate, and I don't know anyone that does.
But we exaggerate a lot in marketing, right? And this is it's still marketing, it's still media, it's still entertainment. We do exaggerate. And we exaggerate these stereotypes, and we do it with women too. Like if
you consider the exaggeration, that's probably not far off the truth in some respects for the majority. I think a lot of these.
So then we're not taking it seriously.
Okay, what does the typical Australian man? We're in Australia. What does a typical Australian man look like? What's typical?
I don't know. We're a very multicultural country.
Nah.
We're very multicultural. I guess our obesity numbers are quite high compared to global standards. So you would think on the podgy side. I don't know. I mean, what's a typical man look like?
What about your
Tattoo?
typical
What do they
Australian
do? What do they
event?
drink? What do they do on the weekend? What do they drive? What's a typical man?
You have like a typical Australian barbecue. You have the men around, standing around the barbecue with a beer and their kind of thongs, having a chat about sport. And then the women in the kitchen preparing the salad, talking about the kids. That's still true in 2019 as it was in 1950.
But if the UK wants to change it, why is this not changing? Or the Americans on a whole different agenda?
Well, the one thing that I will raise, and that's become
These are all American shows, right?
big news, is Bluey. Do you know of Bluey?
Yeah.
Bluey? Have you heard of Bluey?
I grew up when Blues were called Blue Movies.
Okay, Bluey. Bluey came out last year. Bluey's an Australian cartoon where the dad is actually a stay-at-home dad, and it portrays the relationship he has with his daughters, and the dogs. So there's a lot of Australian culture in there, and it's become very popular. I think it was actually purchased only recently by the BBC, I believe, who've now flipped it to, I think, Disney, or at least it's going on the Disney show. But part of the sale process, because I think it's still partly funded by the Australian government in some way, shape, or form, but part of the process was they wanted to actually Americanise it and change it, and the current or the original sort of founders held firm and forced the process of the sale to go through and to keep it as an Australian, cartoon. But its popularity is insane, and it's still the funny dad.
I've never heard of it. But
Look at the 10-minute cartoons. Go check it out on ABC.
Too.
Yeah, go check it out on ABC Kids.
Maybe we're overanalyzing
No,
it.
but he's still got the comedy aspect. Like he still does some silly dad stuff, but he shows a very loving portrayal of his family in a different way.
Because when you brought up Disney, when you think about a lot of the Disney dads, they are a bit more on the serious side, seeking almost approval, seeking authority. Like they're portrayed very differently. When you mentioned Disney, it clicked that. They're generally very different as well, which is super fascinating. So maybe it's just the entertainment and the comedic side of trying to exaggerate, which is the truth. Like I'm guilty of I don't know to that extreme, but of leaving, not putting my clothes in the wash basket. I might put them next to him, and Mrs. has a crack at you, and or you're like, I don't know what we're doing this weekend, and so. Some of there's elements of truth to these things, and so I guess just from an entertainment point of view, I guess the bigger question is whether it is detrimental in the long term, and clearly it irks you.
Well, can I flip this completely on its head, right, and say, do we take the piss out of ourselves as men because we're either scared of women or women can't handle it?
I think sometimes these dads just
So
choose
we're skipping that question.
not necessarily the women angle, but a lot of these dads are portrayed as not taking life too seriously because they're probably afraid of taking things
But these
seriously.
are some pretty
A lot of
long running and deep shows, right?
Yeah, well, Justin had a good point before. A lot of these men playing these roles were, especially in the shows from the 70s, for example, are coming out of a major war. They've been fairly mentally affected by that, and they kind of choose to be very lighthearted and kind of have a beer and not take things seriously because probably the reality is facing up to their mental health.
But we're talking about what's on TV now.
But the other,
But also,
But this is
you
what's on TV
can't
now.
isolate any one of these shows into one character because what they need to do is the 3 to 5 to 7 key characters in these shows, they need to create friction. Like that is where the story comes from.
Drama.
And even the morale,
Chaos.
like the morale of the story might be a good thing, but they need these different points.
So are we
to
using the
balance.
man because the man is more resilient than what the woman is? That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, probably in a way. In a way.
Sorry,
I
say
mean,
that
the
again.
women are very resilient in their way, and I think
Well, that's a half-assed answer, Matty.
no,
I
it's
mean,
not because I think they construct these dads, and
So
some
we
of them are
taking it-
useless, and then the women are very resourceful and useful in their way because
So to create the drama that we're talking about, to create the chaos that we're talking about, yeah, we're using the man as the foil. Is that because women aren't capable of handling the becoming the foil?
Possibly. I don't know. Imagine if you had
possibly.
Imagine if you portrayed still a woman who was a stay-at-home mum in a show and didn't work and whatever. Like that'd be. I just don't think modern society would really accept that for the same reason, like Matt was saying, they have a lot of same-sex couples and stay-at-home dads being presented. They're almost pushing the stereotype of the minority.
Well, it's easier to take the mickey out of ourselves than to, cop trying to take the mickey out of someone else. So, most of these are, I would be going out on a limb, are directed and produced by males because
No, I would tell you you're right.
that's probably the norm still. And so going out on, doing that would cop a lot of hate and backlash.
But this is also why we went so far and we've gone so far into reality TV is because sometimes it's not okay to be giving certain stereotypes shit. And dads are potentially one of them, but then you're going to put people on TV and they're going to do these things. And they've already signed a waiver and you're just presenting the truth, right? So you're showing the guy, the hopeless guy that is appalling to his partner. You're just portraying that because it's truth and you're going, hey, this is reality. I'm not taking any responsibility for the themes in this bullshit. And let's look at all these dating shows and other things that go on. But they literally...
They're another debate
They're
again.
another debate in themselves, but they handcraft the people.
How is that acceptable on a show and not in the real world?
Well,
Like,
they call it's okay because it's reality. But actually, they've just crafted the whole story anyway. What's the difference? And they go deeper into these stereotypes and they rip.
But there's another problem
rip
again.
people
Like you
apart.
look at the maths thing recently and how much that encourages.
Maths is.
Married at first sight. Get with the times, man. Jeez.
He
Well,
watches
not
it.
for me.
He watches it, mate.
I've watched
Maths.
a couple of episodes.
Like the behaviors that's encouraging or allowing to be acceptable in people is pretty appalling when you think about it, because particularly with the rise of social media and stuff like that, that's a whole other thing again. Like it's just,
Are we digressing, gentlemen?
Not really,
Not
because I think we're
really.
talking about the same thing.
Because these days, I would actually agree with it. Funny that you bring up reality TV. I would say it's almost more popular than a lot of these shows. You're seeing a lot of the sitcoms kind of dying off a bit.
Yeah, comedy has. Everything's become very freaking dramatic.
Well, it's easier to record people just doing dumb shit.
Yeah. And well, comedies and structured shows, even like Modern Family is designed as a show to show you different aspects. They've got a same-sex couple. They've got a traditional kind of, nuclear family. They've got an old American man who's remarried with a Latino wife. But each of those roles has been heavily stereotyped purely because A, it's funny and people enjoy that. B, it creates tension and drama for what is a lighthearted show. Whereas reality TV at least shows us real human beings interacting in the real world to a degree. It's still crafted and cultured, but at least we can relate a little bit more to it because it's people that rather than characters.
So is comedy a dying art?
Well, no, because comedy largely is always taking the piss out of yourself. I mean, I heard Peter Hellier get up recently and do this big whole skit about he's a dickhead dad. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And he got up and he's like, "It's just dickhead dad, and I'm just dickhead dad." And he was. The crowd were in tears.
It's relatable.
It's Australian
about the
humour.
things
It's
he'd done wrong.
self-deprecating.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not just Australian.
It's American too.
Just in general too, but if you look at like Peter Hellier from the outside, looks like a Homer Simpson kind of character. He's a little bit overweight. He kind of doesn't.
But even I've watched some of Kevin Hart, who has just skyrocketed to success, and he does the exact same thing. And like he's willing to go up on stage and admit that how much like he tries to behave like he's the alpha, but then in the same sentence will acknowledge that he's not. And that the women, that his wife drives, the outcome, and his kids walk all over him, and all this type of stuff, and that's what he is funny.
True, yeah.
And he's the most probably recently one of the most successful comedians out there, and maybe that's just the way that for comedy it is what it is. I don't know whether it's a dying art or a.
I wouldn't have thought so.
I don't agree with.
It's changing.
It's changing.
Because we've got YouTube and everything else that's going on now.
The PC element is definitely having an impact, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 10 years which is a whole nother topic, I think, in itself.
The UK have clearly set a precedent there, right?
Yeah, but this is where mainstream will struggle, but all the indie stuff will flow through. And indie's only getting bigger because of our ability and accessibility of equipment, and we can create a short film with almost no money. Like we don't have the problems that we had 30, 40, 50 years ago to create some content. Maybe it's not to the extent of a major media house, but those major media houses are going to be handcuffed in a lot of ways because it's not going to be reasonable for them to present certain shows and to do certain things. And like what you're talking about.
I guess you know what I mean. It's presented like that, and the question that was presented to us by Josh. I mean, if in isolation, I wouldn't have thought it'd be an issue, right? In isolation, but when I saw those names put on the paper all together, I did take some offence to it.
I think if you are going to be heavily influenced by external sources in the media, then it's worrisome. But it comes back to everything that we talk about, which is you've got to work on yourself and ask the question: is that really who you want to be? Because if you don't ask the question, you'll be influenced by that regardless.
But that's okay and we talk about Pareto's principle and the 80-20 rule, right? I mean, and this is what it comes down to. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, those people that do the work on themselves or are aware of themselves aren't necessarily going to be influenced to the impact of that space, and most of us aren't in our vicinity. But it does concern me that the 80% will be. And we sit back, we talk about the rich get rich and the poor get poorer. I mean, that's not just about money.
Yeah, it's about knowledge. It's about everything, right?
Yeah, it's mind space too, right?
Emotional,
yeah,
spiritual.
So basically, going back to that study, and that study was actually called "Wait Until Your Father Gets Home," and it was
That was me.
It explored the way today's dads are portrayed in the media, but it was actually, I think it was run by Nickelodeon actually. But
is that you? Is that you, Matt? Are you that, Jacob? Is that what Ainsley says to young Henry?
Wait until your dad gets home.
I definitely think within our household, I'm considered I've always been the fun uncle, and that's just naturally progressed to me.
Henry.
And has naturally progressed towards being the fun dad. But I personally think
I'm the funkle.
But not a lot of it, even today, not a lot is expected of dads. There's a huge amount expected of women to work, to have the household, to be great moms, etc. But I still don't think there's nearly as much expected of dads. I was at a play centre yesterday.
I saw
90% mums.
Very jealous
there, and I'm
the slides and shit.
The fun 28-year-old dad that kind of Henry just wanted to go around on his bike. And I was like, no, man, let's go on the slide. Let's climb this stuff. Let's go and play.
Were you the DILF?
Probably. Jesus. But
if I say so myself.
But you don't have to do a lot as a dad to get people to go, oh wow, look, he's so amazing. He takes his child out
Do
and
they?
plays
I
with
don't
him.
believe they say that shit, man.
They fuck it too a little bit.
Hey,
I find like if
you reckon you heard that?
if I put a little bit more effort in and did the dishes, they'd be like, oh wow, good job, like you've got a great one there.
I don't know. Well,
Take the
fair
kid to
enough.
the park and they're like, oh, that's so good of you to take your boy to the park. Like, it doesn't take much to be dad of the day or dad of the year. It takes a hell of a
Isn't
lot.
that a
to be
shitty thing?
Did I finish the sentence anyway? I don't think I did, but half the dads say they should be depicted as sensitive and nurturing by showing them interacting with their kids, enjoying a variety of activities with them, and showing that kids need them as well as mum. That's half.
The three of us do that.
Yeah, I agree. But they're saying that this doesn't get depicted very often.
It's because I believe women are too soft to be able to be the comedic value in these shows. Well, I'm not being sexist.
Nice.
I mean, it's either the father or the mother that's going to be thrown on the bus here, right? And it's been the dads. I'm not happy about that. Sorry, I'll stand up for it.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd almost not find a show where the mum is just a bit of a sit on the couch slob who.
Kath and Kim.
A couple
There is
movies,
some.
couple movies have attempted at it, but they're
Like bad
actually,
mums and things. where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
and
which-
that's become a fun thing to kind of play with.
yeah, which is funny enough. If you watch them, and I think the women really relate to these, is that there's more truth in those than there isn't, which says that some of these. Funny you say that. It's probably because they are produced by men. That's why it ends up the way that it is.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And so when it's produced and executed by a woman, like the bad mums, there is a more willingness to self-deprecate themselves.
I love that word.
Because
Self-deprecate.
men are not willing to do
I
it.
use it at basketball.
I mean, Conrad might be willing to do it, but could you imagine someone, trying to, they'd cop it?
It's just, I don't know.
There'd be a hashtag.
It's. I wish, I honestly wish I didn't see these names on the list together because I really have taken umbrage at that.
I mean, they're not the only names, but there's
I know.
much more in that group too.
But there's some powerful names in here.
There's
When you
some
talk about a
powerful
TV show, these shows have been going on forever.
Like, you can say the first name of a lot of those, and everyone would know exactly.
Apart from
like,
that Daddy Pig thing, I mean,
most
every one of
people-
those I'm good
Or
with.
Al Bundy.
Yeah, but that's only because you're showing your age. But apart from that, people know them by their first names.
Yeah.
Like, that's how common the knowledge of that character is. Yeah.
And so it has penetrated society to a point from that perspective. In my circle, I don't believe the imagery has, and I don't believe, and therefore I don't believe we are being portrayed anywhere near what we are. And I'd welcome some new stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a long way from there. And
Can we do an indie show?
I'm sure there's other ways. Well, we're doing
Whatever
now.
indie means. Does that mean independent?
Just independent. We're doing another one right now. We're doing one. This is a show.
Yeah, and
we're
my
producing
name
media.
is
Conrad
Francis.
Conrad J Francis. Short for.
But would a show be funny if it just
I'm the new age
if
dad.
it was
No, but
purely
you got to find other angles, right? Because they're there.
yeah? But even like something like what
Take the
Justin
piss
was
out of the
saying,
kids, mate. They're all
something like
Muppets.
Bad Mums still plays on a stereotype. It takes all the things that women can relate to about really living up to that expectation, about not being as great as society expects you to be, and then just pushes those stereotypes to a point where it's kind of like excessively funny. I think if you had a show that was purely just based on reality, it really wouldn't be that funny. Just be like,
I think we should just go back to the Coliseum. Just
Women
about there.
that listen to this show, I know there's a few. If you're at the end and you actually are listening, I would really appreciate your opinion
Kudos.
on this. I would really appreciate thanks for listening this far anyway. But if you get to the end of this, I'd really appreciate your thoughts on whether you would like to see the way men are portrayed in these types of TV shows change. Or do you think it's having a negative impact on the children that are watching these shows? And is it okay that we are being portrayed in these ways? I'd love to know. I mean, it's a genuine question and without any malice, because I'm just interested.
Well, these are all comedies too. Are there examples of men that are portrayed in dramas, for example, that are different? Is comedy always something we're going to take stereotypes and aspects of reality essentially and just amplify them in a way that we all find funny?
I mean, like I said, I'm interested. I really am interested. I mean, other than Kath and Kim, I can't name off the top of my head any female figures that have had the piss taken out of them in a comedic show for a while.
Well,
No one's brave enough. Who has the power?
Look, I'm sure they're out there. If people want to tag them in, that's good. Let's figure it out. But good topic, Josh. I think. Thanks for. He can't hear this right now, but thank you very much.
Big
for
producer
that.
man.
Well, I think
The only man on this planet that scares me.
We'll wrap it up here.
Josh.
We'll wrap it up here, but because he's about to walk in the room because he thought we're finished. But look, good topic, and I think it's interesting. And I'm like, they're clearly not all the There's a lot of other big names out there in different shows, but those ones are interesting, and especially with the stats that the British advertising community has taken recently.
British advertising, no, the UK's advertising standards and authority.
Their standards and authority. So it's pretty interesting.
Now he wants to start getting fucking open.
Standard as we're wrapping up.
Come on, J-Mo. Fucking you should have opened with that, you muppet.
What did he do?
I think it's shit.
Jesus. Okay. No worries.
Now I've got a comrade in arms.
Just no.
We'll have to do another episode.
Jacob's referring to the standards thing, right?
Yeah, just the whole the fact that the British are.
Oh, come on, mate. We finished the show here.
I know. I'm just saying they're doing it. I just don't like the direction the society is heading, where we're pushing too far down that politically correct aspect.
Sugarcoating it all, right?
Let's all go to the moon.
It's like stereotypes are fun. They exist for a
And
reason.
if
You talk
you
about like
believe-
Asian people being shit at driving. Like a lot of the time you see someone and you go, "Fuck, that's why there's a stereotype." Like it doesn't mean that every.
Can we play with the
person-
stereotype at the moment? Just came to mind, right? Given the last episode we talked about the moon landing, right? Donald Trump is wanting to get a female in space. She'll be able to identify whether aliens do exist because she'll find a way to reverse into one.
What? He was talking about traffic protocol. Mate, look, I've seen your car and you're in no position to talk about anyone reversing
My
into
car didn't
anything.
hit. I didn't hit anyone.
Your car looks like a bumper car from the local fair.
The local
I
fair.
didn't hit anyone. People hit me.
The amount of lines all over your car that is not pinstripe.
speed stripe.
Can we just wrap this up?
trying.
And the inside of it looks like a typical man as well.
Oh, it does. Anyway, we're wrapping this up. Thanks, gentlemen. It was a great drop. Thank you, me. And thanks for joining me. Shut up. I've turned all your mics down. Get out of here. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Please like or share. Anyway.
Yeah, please like or share a comment. And if you're a female that wants a comedy show, we're looking for an indie.
Ciao.
Peace.